Welcome everyone to this video. We're going to cover part 2 of learnpython.org basics. So if you're interested, I've recorded part 1 and today we're going to do part 2. So let's take a quick look at these. If you go to learnpython.org, you can actually run through these on your own. But for this video, I thought it would be helpful to explain on how this works. So the first part, I covered the first 4. For this one, we're going to start with string formatting. And we're going to cover basic string operators and conditions and loops. So let's go ahead and get started with string formatting. All right. So let's say that we're going to talk about how we format strings. So I'm going to first start with a variable name called John. And I'm going to print the variable here. But I'm going to say hello. Now this is actually older Python syntax, I believe, but it will still work. So I'm just going to go with it and explain how it works. All right, so we have the variable named John, and what we're going to do is we're going to print hello, and we're going to call this a string. And I need a closing quote actually here and not over here. All right, so we're going to print this string, and then what we're saying here is we're going to take this string here. We're going to print another string, which is going to be name. So we're basically replacing that with this. And so if we go ahead and print or run this, we get hello, John. So that's one way that we can print out a string. All right, well, let's do another one here. So let's say we have name of John, and we're going to do age. We'll set that to 23. So we're going to do an integer this time, and we're going to print, let's say string is decimal. D for decimal and years old. Then if we pass in the name and the age, we can go ahead and substitute what's in here for string and decimal, and then we'll have the string and an integer. So let's go ahead and run that, and we get, oh, John, did I do something wrong? John, I need this in quotes because that is a string. All right, John is 23 years old. All right, let's move on to lists. And we'll create a my list equals 1, 2, 3. And let's go ahead and do something similar to that. We'll say a list is %s and percent my list. So we're basically going to say this is a string, and we're going to substitute with my list, which we have here. And let's go ahead and run that. All right, so a list 1, 2, and 3. I'll go ahead and comment these out. And in case if you're wondering, my autocomplete is a built-in VS Code extension called Copilot, which is currently in beta, and yeah, it can be useful. There is some mixed debate on that right now, but anyway, that's for another video. All right, let's keep going, and let's do kind of a mixture of both. We'll say strings and integers into one, kind of like what we had here. Let's go ahead and do one more example. So let's say data. Our data variable, and we're going to say first one John, then Doe, and then we're going to say 53.4. Then we're going to format our string. So what we're going to say is hello, first string, second string, your current balance is the third string. Okay. So then if we go ahead and print that one, we can say format string. So we're going to pass in this text here. And then we're going to say data, which is the 3 that we've provided in our string. So first one's John, second one's Doe, then 53.4. So if we go ahead and run it, we're going to say, hello, John Doe. Your current balance is $53.44. All right, let's go on. We have a lot to cover, so let's keep going. We're going to talk about string operations now. All right, so if we start with a string, and let's just use hello world as our example. I better spell that right. And let's go ahead and print. So we can do double quotes, or we could do single quotes. But for this example, we'll do a double quote and we'll do single quotes. And if we go ahead and print that, we'll say basically single quotes. So you're only going to get what's in the double quotes. And you could do the reverse. So I believe this was covered in the first lesson as well. So it's just kind of a recap. All right, now let's go on to the next one, and it's called print. Let's do the length. So this is a built-in function, len, and we're going to print the length of that string. So let's run it, and we'll get 12. So this is 12 characters inside of our string. All right, how about a count? Let's do, oh yeah, actually, do you want to cover index? So index, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the string, and we're going to look for the first version or iteration of O. So you'll notice that there are 2 O's, but it's only going to count the first one. So if we run it, we'll see at position 4. So there's 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 is the first hello. All right, now we can move on to count. So if we print a string at count, what we're going to do is we're going to count all the L's. So we should get 1, 2, and 3 L's. So we run it, we get 3 L's. All right, next one we're going to do is kind of a slice type of method. And what we do here is we are saying inclusive and exclusive. So we're going to include the third element, but we're not going to include the 7th element. So if we go starting at 0, we always start there, 0, 1, 2, and we're going to include 3. So 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're not going to include 7. So we should get LO space W. We run that, and we get LO space W. All right, now on to the next one. We're going to do what's called a start, stop, and step. Let me write that in here. So it would be start, stop, and step. So whenever you're doing arguments within Python, you'll usually have these 3. You don't always have to include, say, for example, last one, but you should usually include the first one. But let me show you how this works. So this one is be our start variable. This is our stop, and this is our step. So if we look at the hello world, we start at 3. So that would be 0, 1, 2, and we include 3, 4, 5, 6, and we don't include 7. However, so we have LOW, but in this case, we are actually stepping by 2. So we're going to start with O. We're going to skip 1, and then we're going to do space, and then we're going to skip the next one. So if we run it, we actually are only going to get L. All right, how about we do another example here, and we just step by 1 instead of 2. Then you'll see it's get everyone instead of every other one. All right, how about reversing a string? All right, so if you think about start, step, we're just gonna, in this example, we're gonna go from beginning to end, so we don't need to input anything. And then our step is actually negative. So instead of going forward, we're gonna go in reverse. So if we run it, then we're going to get hello world backwards. So this is the easiest way to reverse a string. And so this is a great way if you're doing the palindrome checker, is to use this, this method. All right, let's go on to the next one. Let's say we want to print upper. So basically, upper will change everything in this string to uppercase. There we are, as we're shouting hello world. And then the next one is lower. And that's going to change everything to lowercase. All right, the next one I have for you is on starts with. And so this is a Boolean. This is going to be true or false. So if our string starts with hello, it's going to print true. And it does. And the next one is similar to starts with, but it's going to be ends with. And so the way that is, we're going to put something in here that is not part of hello world. And that, if we run it, should be false. And that it is false. All right. And then I think we have just one more in this lesson. And that is going to be the split method. So I'll define a new variable called a few words, and we're going to do an A string. We're going to take this and we're going to split it based on spaces. So we should actually get two. We're going to have hello and we're going to have world. We should get two elements inside of that. So we do want to go ahead and print a few words so we can see what it's doing. And we will get hello as the first one and world as the second one. All right, that is our string operators. Let's go ahead and go to conditions. All right, conditions are if-else statements, and these are very important to learn these in Python. So let's start with an example. We'll say x is 2, and let's print, do a few print statements here so we can see the couple of the operators here. So double equals means is it value equal to value? So it's comparison. And then we're going to say that is going to be true. So x 2 is equal to 3. No, that is not true. So that's going to print false. And then the last one is 2 less than 3. That is true. So it's going to print out true. So that's true, false, and true. All right, so let's go ahead and start our first if statement. We'll print out name here, and we'll set it to John and age 23. And we're going to say here, if name is equal to John and age is equal to 23, then we are going to print your name is John and you are 23 years old. And then the next one, we'll do another if statement, and we'll say, or this time, we'll say, if your name is John or your name is Rick, then print out your name is either John or Rick. So let's go ahead and run that. And the first one is true because name is equal to John and the age is 23. So we'll print out this line. The second one, the first condition is true. So we don't need to worry about the name equal to Rick. And we'll go ahead and print out John or Rick. All right, let's go ahead and do another one. So in this one, we'll define statement equal to false. And we're going to say another statement is equal to true. And so basically what this is going to look like is we're going to say if statement is true, then go ahead and do something. And what we're going to do in this case is just pass. And then the next condition is if another statement is true, then go ahead and do something else. And then we're going to pass again. And then the last one is else, do something and pass. So this is your typical if statement setup. So you have a couple variables, and then first you'll check for a statement. If it's true, you'll go ahead and do something. And then if it is true, it'll exit out of the if statement. If it's not true, it'll go on to the next. It'll check this one. If it's true, it'll do something and then exit. Or that's not true, and then everything else, it's kind of a catch-all. It'll go ahead and do that. And so let's do an example. All right, so if we say, we're going to use our x equals 2 example again, and we will do if x is double equal to 2, then let's go ahead and print out x is equal to x equals 2. All right, And then we'll say else we will print x is not equal to 2. Oh, I don't need all this yet. Ignore that autocomplete. All right. Where did we mess up? I don't know what happened here. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and run it again. All right. So x equals 2. If we changed x to 3 or something else, then you'll say x is not equal to 2. All right, one more example here. Let's set up a few variables. So we'll say number is equal to 16, and we'll say second number is equal to 0. We'll say first array, we're going to set up an array of 1, 2, and 3. And our first if statement, we'll say if number, and we're just going to do some example ifs here. If 15, we'll go ahead and if it's greater than 15, print 1. And then our next one, we'll say if the length of the second array, actually second array, is equal to 2, then print 2. And then our last one will say if the length of first array plus the length of the second array equals 5, we'll print 3. So just you can do multiple if statements right in a row if you like. So this one here, we're going to check is 16 greater than 15. Yes, then it should print 1. We're going to say is the second array, and we don't have second array. This should be second number. I need to define actually. I got a second array here. All right, so second array, we're going to say is equal to 2. All right, so the length of second array, which we have 2 digits here equal to 2, yes, we'll go ahead and print that one. And then the length of first array plus the length of the second array is 5. So if we got 3 here, we got 2 here, that's a total of 5 elements. It's going to print 3. So let's go ahead and run those. And it prints all the conditions. All right, so that's another example of using if statements. All right, that concludes all the if statements. Let's finish with the loops. Loops are another important one. We got for loops and we got while loops. All right, so first I'll start by setting up a primes list here, and we're just going to do a few of these. So 2, 3, 5, 7, and we're going to conclude there. And then let's do a simple loop. So for prime in primes, let's go ahead and print prime. All right, so what we're doing is this prime is an index. It's basically a placeholder variable. And this primes, so it's kind of the way we would say is singular. We just take a singular part of something that's in a list. So our list is primes. We could replace this with I if we want. And that's another common use of it. And we're going to loop through each one of these. So we're going to loop through this one, this one, this one. And since we're going to print all those. So 2, 3, 5, and 7. That's the simple structure of a for loop. All right, and now here's another example. If we want to do a range, which is common, so we could say for I at range 5. So this is going to go from a range from 0 to 5. So we're not going to include 5. So let's look 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I could clear this here and run that again. So you can see it's printing all these. Go like this. All right, 0, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Next thing we could do is we can also select the range that we want. So we could say for I, or let's just pick X instead of I this time, 3 to 10. Let's go ahead and print out that range. And we get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it doesn't include 10. All right, now let's go and do one more. This is where we're going to use the start, step, and stop. And we'll say for X in range, we'll start at 3, we'll go to 10. We're actually stopping at 9. And we'll go every other one. So if we go ahead and run that, we'll get 3, 5, 7, and 9, those odd numbers. Okay, let's talk about a while loop. So a while loop is similar to a for loop, and it's just another style. You can do them similarly. While loops are common if you want to check for a condition that's true and you want to keep running until it is true and exit. So let's do a counter as an example. So we'll just set our first counter to 0. And then if we say while, let's do less than 5, then that's when our condition is true. We'll go ahead and print that counter. And then we're going to increment the counter. So if we run this, what's happening is we start at 0, and is 0 less than 5? Yes. Okay, let's go ahead and print that out. And then we're going to add 1 to it. So now it's 1. Is 1 less than 5? Yes. We'll print that out and add to it. Now it's 2. 2 less than 5? Yes. And you keep going until you reach 4, which is less than 5. 5 is equal to, so that will not print, and it will exit out your loop. All right, now what if let's go ahead and do another example of a while loop here. Let's say that sometimes you can get caught in an infinite loop if you don't meet a condition. So let's do another one. We'll say count equal to 0, and while true. Now this could keep counting and counting. So what's going to happen is we're going to print number and count into 1. So let's say I'm not going to do this one here. It's going to keep running and running and running. So if we go ahead and run that, it's just going to loop infinitely. So let's say if count is greater than 5, what we want to do is break out of the loop. All right, so basically now what will happen is once it reaches 5, then it will stop. So that's one way to exit a while loop. All right, let's do another example here. Similar concept, so it helps. Let's do also a counter. And we'll say while count is less than 5. Let's go ahead and print the count. And then we could say else print count value reached, and then what they've done here is, all right, so while less than 5, go ahead and count in an increment. Now, anything else? Print value is reached. So let's go ahead and run that. So what happens is once it gets out of there, once it reaches the while loop, then you go ahead and print an else statement. I don't know if this one was exactly useful, but it's just another example of once you're done with the while loop, then you can go ahead and print the value. All right, let's do another for loop. This one we're going to do a modulus operator and also a break. So we'll say for I in range, and we're going to go from range from 1 to 10. And this time we're going to say if the I modulus of 5 is 0, then break. So basically, we're going to loop through, and once it reaches a number divisible by 5, the modulus is 0, which is basically up to 5, then we're going to break out of the loop. Or else, we're going to print, yeah, we could print I, or in the example, what they say is it's not printed because it's doesn't meet the fail condition. It doesn't meet the break, basically. So then if we run it, So it's going to run up to 5, and then once it reaches 5, it's going to break. So it's no longer going to run this condition, but then else from 6 to 10 or 6 to 9. So this would be 6, 7, 8, 9. It's going to run the statement. Not exactly sure what they're trying to teach here, but it's just another example of how you could use the if-else statement. All right, for the next one, the last one here, I'm going to print or copy in a list of numbers here. And then we're going to loop through this list of integers. So we'll say for number in numbers. This is our list or array of numbers. And first if statement will say if number is equal to 237. So it's going to loop until it reaches the number of 237 somewhere in here. And then we're going to go ahead and break out of the loop if that's true. Until then, what we want to do is we're going to say, well, if number is mod 2, which basically means if it's even. No, actually in the example they give mod 1, which is odd. Then go ahead and continue. So it's not really going to do anything. It's just going to pass. Else, print number. So this is basically going to print the even numbers. So let's go ahead and run it. Okay. This should all be shifted over. All right, so the even numbers up until 237. So the first number here we have is 402,984. So if you look up here, odd number 402,984, and it's just going to keep going all the way until we reach 237, which is somewhere down here. Right there. So about halfway through. And then once it reaches there, then it's going to break because it's part of this for loop. All right, that's it for all of the examples in this part 2. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please leave those in the comments. And hopefully I will get to part 3 soon. And I hope to see you in the next video. So long.